characteristic of a manga to emphasize, like in the drawings, like eyes, hairs, and clothes? I noticed how that really stands out when I'm looking at what you show there.
Yeah, one of the things that I think initially drew me to the art style is it's very emotional. Like, it's not, you don't just rely on the face to tell the emotion, but it's almost like their hair and their clothes and just everything sort of emits their emotion. So yeah, their eyes are highly stylized, and you know, their hair as well. So it's very based on using visuals to convey the story and to convey emotion rather than relying on the text.
What led you both to skepticism and to art in general, manga in particular?
Yeah, well, I've always been interested in drawing and coming up with stories, and the two kind of easily go together. And came across manga probably when I was entering high school. It was just this new sort of unique thing for me, and kind of fell in love with the way you can tell a story, and as I mentioned, the different kinds of stories you can tell. You don't have to tell. Not that in American comics you have to tell a certain story. It's just typically it's very superhero based, and very also literal. Manga's a little more thinking in the abstract. Like if you're reading an American comic book and a character catches on fire, they're probably literally on fire. Where in manga, it's all taken into context. They can be drawn that they're on fire and they're just, you know, fired up. They're just really mad or whatever, excited. So that's one of the things that again I like about manga.
What led you to skepticism, though? Were you exposed to bad thinking when you were young?
No, actually not. No, my Canadian home was very like, you don't push religion on your kids type thinking. Like it was like that's, you know, a personal thing. So I was brought up in a very secular home, and I always had an interest in science. But that's why I mentioned you can have an interest in science and be led into, you know, the UFOs and the crop circles and the pseudoscience when you don't have a formal science education. My education was very much like I was into the arts and everything, so I had a very basic, you know, high school science education, and then my interest in science was like a hobby outside of that. And took graphic design in college. I actually came across skepticism after I graduated and was entered into this young entrepreneurship program for young Ontarians who are trying to start up businesses. They would give you grants, and there were classes to take, and the program was run by a lady, very nice but part-time Reiki master, and was a coordinator of this business program. And slowly, her sort of new age slant would enter the program. Like, here's an optional astrology, you know, reading that you only if you want to, you can attend this, you know, and we can do astrology readings. And they would have conversations like, we don't believe in, you know, newspaper horoscope astrology. That's just silly. You know, we believe in, you know, proper, you know, star sign astrology or whatever, where electromagnetism and quantum entanglement, you know, it all works.
The real stuff.
You know? Yeah, the real astrology. And for some reason, I would go back home and I would look up, you know, talked about to see, like, to me, I was like, I don't know, this sounds kind of sciencey, but, like, really? And that's how I came across blogs like Bad Astronomer by Full Plate. And I think as soon as you get onto his blog, I think that's a doorway into the online skeptical community. And I realized quite quickly how easy it is, you know, to not only to find, like, if you as soon as you get the desire to be skeptical and to want to look it up, it's pretty easy to find it out. And it's even more easy reading it, be like, well, of course electromagnetism can't, make Mercury retrograde work or whatever. Like, very clear and simple, like, these are the points, debunked. It was like, oh my gosh, like, this wave of like, all these things that so many people believe. It's like, I wanted to go and be like, did you know that astrology, like, is all crap? And they're like, typical Cancer. I was like, no, they don't want to know. So that was my introduction, like, through this little bit. It was weird, the little business course that had, some New Agers in it, sort of led me into the opposite direction that they were heading.
How much humor do you make use of? Because I found that's a great icebreaker for skepticism to people. Show them a stand-up comedian who's skeptical or something, and it's a comfortable opening. Do you make use of that a lot in your work?
Yeah, well, I actually, besides Legend of the Star, which is, as I was explaining about why I'm bothered to mention the whole He-Man Harry Potter thing, was it's a more subtle, like, it's not like in today's episode, we learned skepticism lesson number.
Right.
It's very subtle in its message, so it's sort of like I don't want to say it's like a Star Wars, but it's kind of like, I don't want them to realize, that they're supposed to be learning anything. It's like, ooh, yeah.
Not an after-school special.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I do have my own little blog that I do as a hobby, where some of those, like the Han Solo thing and the Carl Sagan doodle, like putting that kind of stuff up on the web, on a blog, and pairing it with an article or a blog post where I like to write about skepticism, but try to incorporate the art, the manga, and have, like, cute little jokes and stuff. Yeah, definitely.
I think it's an interesting idea what you're doing. I work with Japanese companies. I've done over 130 English language anime television shows. I've written them in many movies. But a lot of my experience has been that they are totally into woo. Totally.
Yeah.
The Japanese anime, the culture, past lives, spirits,
Blood
ghosts,
typing.
good luck, all the stuff that we're kind of against is in anime, and I've had to write this stuff. I'm doing a pilot now, and it's just full of it, driving me crazy. But it's interesting, you're taking their art style, but you're doing something totally different. Now, I don't know whether there's other mangas that actually are doing this, but this looks like it's something totally different from what the Japanese are doing, which is very interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, like, I find a little bit too. There's a lot of I've heard this from speaking to parents who have anime fans, and also a few librarians who were really embracing manga because it was bringing kids into the library, and they just wanted, kids to come in the library and be around books. Like, they didn't care, that they were reading comic books. And they said they found that if it looks like this, if it looks like anime or manga, they're immediately drawn to it. So I'm not sure necessarily if the woo is a necessary, component of it. I think there is a bit with certain anime fans, like, it looks like anime and they, it piques their interests. So that's the thought, is like, plus I love the artwork style and the storytelling style, but yeah, to kind of, there's an opportunity of, like, cross-contamination of, skeptics being introduced to manga and manga fans being introduced to skepticism, because it's packaged in this, in what I love about manga, I've taken and then inserted, the science and the sci-fi and the skepticism message.